Have you ever stopped to think about how much of what you believe is actually yours? Like something you figured out yourself
Hmm.
versus, how much was maybe just given to you?
Yeah.
Or taking it a step further, how responsible is someone really for doing something if they were like raised from day one to believe that action was completely right, even good?
That's a heavy question.
It is. Welcome to this deep dive.
Mm.
Today we're getting into something pretty profound and honestly sometimes uncomfortable.
Yeah, definitely.
It's the connection between indoctrination and moral responsibility. We're going to be unpacking insights from Larkin Rose's work on this, specifically his piece on indoctrination, culpability, and moral responsibility.
Right. And Rose's core idea really is just acknowledging how much most people are shaped by, well, everything around them, their upbringing, the culture, even propaganda.
Totally.
And the challenge then becomes, okay, so how much do we hold someone accountable if they supported harmful things, but they genuinely believed because they were taught that those things were justified or even noble?
Exactly. So our goal here, for you listening, is to kind of peel back these layers, to understand the nuances of blame when beliefs run really deep.
It's not about making excuses, though. That's important.
No, not at all. It's about getting clear on a really complex human situation, understanding the why without just dismissing the what. Okay, so let's get into it.
Let's do it.
So Rose kicks things off with this foundational idea. Pretty much everyone's beliefs, their loyalties,
Hmm.
they're heavily shaped by where and how they grew up.
Yeah, it's not some radical idea. It's basic human development, really. We absorb things from our environment.
We're all swimming in certain currents, right?
Absolutely. And he calls this widespread influence ordinary indoctrination. It's often subtle. You might not even notice it happening. It just shapes how you see the world.
And he makes a point to contrast that with, you know, extreme stuff like NK Ultra, right? Those CIA mind control experiments.
Exactly. In those really extreme cases, Rose suggests personal blame is pretty minimal, unless maybe someone volunteered for it, which seems unlikely. But for most of us, the influence is much more, well, ordinary, but still powerful.
And he gives some pretty clear examples in the text, doesn't he? Things that show this ordinary indoctrination in action.
Yeah, he does. For instance, how many Americans might sort of automatically identify with the U.S. government or the ruling class, as he puts it?
Right, and defend military stuff without really questioning it too deeply.
Or similarly, how some Israelis might tie their personal identities so closely to the state that they defend government actions even when those actions might be causing harm.
Mm.
These aren't meant as unique criticisms, but as examples of how identity and loyalty can get tangled up with what states do or with dominant narratives.
It really sets the stage for the responsibility question.
It does, because it shows how beliefs we think are deeply personal might actually come from outside forces, which leads right to that critical question.
Okay.
Okay, when does having these deep beliefs cross the line into being morally culpable?
Yeah, that is the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Huh.
Because Rose doesn't just say people get indoctrinated. He actually breaks down culpability based on different factors.
Yeah.
What's the first one he looks at?
He starts with something he calls factual deception. This
Mhm.
is basically when people believe things that aren't true falsehoods presented as facts.
Okay.
And because they believe these false facts, they act in ways that, seem moral or right within that mistaken framework.
So they think they're doing the right thing, but based on bad info.
Exactly. Rose suggests this is maybe the least blameworthy situation. It's more about ignorance being misled than actual malice.
Can you give an example of that
Yeah,
from
sure.
his perspective?
Sure. Imagine someone who genuinely believes, because it's all they've heard from sources they trust, that a certain military intervention is purely about spreading democracy and freedom. They might passionately support it, donate money, vote accordingly, completely unaware of maybe more complex or even negative geopolitical motives or consequences. Their action comes from trusting false information.
Okay, I see.
And the interesting point there is the culpability might lie more with whoever is spreading the falsehood, the deceiver, rather than just the person who was deceived.
That makes sense, but what if the real information is out there? What if someone could know better, but maybe chooses not to look? What does Rose say about that?
Well, that's where the blame starts to ramp up. He moves into what he calls willful ignorance.
Willful ignorance, okay.
This is when someone actively avoids, or maybe just dismisses, information that challenges their existing beliefs, information they've encountered, perhaps.
So it's not just that they don't know, it's that they don't want to know.
Kind of, yeah. Or they find ways to rationalize it away. The
Right.
example used is someone refusing to acknowledge documented civilian casualties caused by their side's military action.
Because it would mess with their patriotic feelings.
Precisely. It would disrupt a comfortable narrative they hold about their country or group being purely good. It's an active choice to maintain that comfort, even if it means ignoring harm.
That definitely feels different from just being lied to.
It does. It brings up this whole question about our responsibility to seek out truth, doesn't it? Especially if our beliefs influence actions that affect others. Rose kind of pushes us to think about whether persistent factual deception eventually becomes willful ignorance if you never question where your facts come from.
Hmm. Interesting point. Okay, so we have factual deception, willful ignorance. What's the next level? The most concerning one.
That would be what he terms corrupt moral principles.
Okay, that sounds serious.
It is. This isn't just about being wrong about facts. It's about being indoctrinated with principles that are, frankly, immoral by most standards.
Like what kind of principles?
Things like dehumanizing entire groups of people,
Hmm.
justifying slavery or genocide, or treating certain people as inherently inferior or evil. The core issue here is that the person's fundamental moral compass has been warped. So when they act on these principles, especially if it involves violence, they become genuinely dangerous. It's not just misunderstanding, it's operating from a corrupted ethical base.
And the source mentions historical examples.
Yes, stark ones.
Okay.
Like the justifications used during slavery in the U.S., which literally defined black people as less than human to make enslavement seem acceptable.
Right.
Or, in many conflicts today where you see rhetoric that completely dehumanizes the other side, making violence seem not just necessary, but righteous.
That's chilling.
It is. Because with corrupt moral principles, the indoctrination goes so deep that horrific actions can feel perfectly justified to the person committing them. It's a whole different level of problem than just being misinformed.
Okay, this is a lot to take in. It feels quite heavy. But you mentioned Rose offers a distinction to help clarify things.
Yes, and it's a really crucial one. The difference between practical necessity and moral judgment.
Practical necessity versus moral judgment. Okay, how does that work?
He uses this very memorable analogy, the rabid dog analogy.
A rabid dog. Okay.
Yeah, so think about it. A dog with rabies didn't choose to get rabies, right? It's infected. It's not morally evil for having the disease.
Right, it's sick.
Exactly. But practical necessity dictates that even though the dog isn't morally blameworthy for being sick, it still poses a danger. It has to be stopped, maybe even put down to protect others.
Okay, I see the parallel.
So similarly, someone who has been deeply indoctrinated, maybe to the point of acting on corrupt moral principles and committing atrocities, well, regardless of how much moral blame we assign them for their beliefs, the practical necessity might be that they have to be stopped, perhaps forcibly, even lethally, if they pose an ongoing threat.
So the need to stop the harm is separate from judging the person's internal moral state.
In that immediate practical sense, yes. But that's only one side of the analogy. The other side is the moral judgment.
Okay, what's that part?
While the indoctrination explains why someone might believe or act harmfully, it doesn't just erase all responsibility forever. It doesn't excuse ongoing harmful actions, especially if the person has had chances to encounter contradictory evidence or question their programming.
Ah, so the explanation isn't a complete get-out-of-jail-free card, morally speaking.
Not according to Rose, no. The rabid dog analogy forces us to confront that sometimes, regardless of the why, the what's the harmful action demands a practical response. But the why still matters for our deeper understanding and moral evaluation.
So pulling this all together, what's the main takeaway for us trying to make sense of this stuff in the real world? It really feels like it's about understanding the different layers, not just writing everyone off or excusing everything.
That's exactly it. Rose isn't trying to excuse evil acts. He's trying to help us understand the different roots of harmful behavior.
Right.
So you've got these layers. Some people do wrong, mainly because they were lied to, factual deception.
Right.
Others do wrong because they actively choose not to see uncomfortable truths, willful ignorance.
And then some act wrongly because their very sense of right and wrong has been twisted by deeply ingrained immoral ideas, corrupt moral principles.
And knowing these distinctions, why does that matter for us, for the listener?
Well, I think it helps clarify how we think about responsibility when we see propaganda or deep cultural conditioning at play. It helps us dissect the why behind harmful actions without losing sight of the what needs to be done to stop the harm. It adds nuance to our judgment.
It's about a more informed understanding, not necessarily a softer one.
Precisely. Understanding the mechanism doesn't mean approving of the outcome.
So we've really gone deep today into these murky waters of indoctrination and moral responsibility. We've looked at how things like upbringing, cultural stories, even outright lies can shape what we believe and do.
Yeah, navigating that whole spectrum from just being factually misled to willfully shutting out truth, all the way to internalizing really corrupt moral ideas.
And Rose's work, it's not just some abstract theory, is it? It really pushes us to look inward, too. Absolutely, it's a challenge. So maybe the question for you listening is, what part of this discussion stood out most to you?
Yeah, think about how understanding these different kinds of culpability, or lack thereof, might shift how you look at certain things. Historical events, maybe, or public figures.
Or even perhaps the origins of some of your own strongest beliefs. How could this kind of understanding maybe help you be a bit more discerning about the narratives you encounter or the influences shaping your own perspective?
A lot to think about there.